At this hour, a group of people gathered for a mortal fight. They were called Misty Flowers. At the head was a man nicknamed the Undead, who could not simply die. However, he was opposed by a berserker named Travis, who lived solely to kill monsters. He descended into one of the 8 dark dungeons in the world, which had not yet been conquered by anyone. It was clear from the guy that he was truly a real hero of this world, and this time he had to fight much stronger and bigger monsters to save this world. Travis knew this could be where his 32-year life could possibly end. He bravely fought the numerous monsters that stood in his way, like a true hero. Suddenly a giant snake appeared in front of him, which he easily knocked over to the floor. Travis waited and prepared to make the final blow. Looking into her eyes, he cut off her head in the blink of an eye. Looking around, Travis saw a huge monster of unknown origin, in whose eyes there was a burning desire to teach the guy a lesson. Travis began to avoid his attacks and deftly deliver his own. He did not expect that the monster would be able to resist the sword, his faithful friend. At some point, the guy still couldn't stand on his feet and was forced to retreat from the monster. Then Travis remembered his backup plan. He had a miniature sword in his pocket, which glowed blue as soon as it was in his hands. He thrust it sharply into the monster's jaw, watching as the monster fell heavily to the floor. Having caught his breath, the guy turned and looked at the defeated evil spirits. Travis looked around carefully to make sure that all opponents were defeated. Then he took out one of the swords directly from the ground soaked in blood. He had to wade through an ocean of blood to receive the main award. The main task was to kill the boss. Opening the stone gates, he entered the room. Having entered the mysterious darkness, he was sure that the owner of the abyss was located here. A second later, he realized that the boss's devilish eyes were looking at him, burning with red fire and wanting to kill him. Travis felt this gaze literally incinerate him. Suddenly he was thrown several meters back towards a stone column standing there. He grinned sarcastically, imagining that this could very well be his grave. Travis understood that the boss was too strong, and humanity was unable to defeat the master of the abyss. He lay on the floor, almost unconscious, and thought that it wouldn't be so bad to die in the depths of the dungeon in a fight with the boss himself. To his surprise, the guy saw his friend named Lucy. He did not understand how the girl could survive. Lucy said his injury was too serious, and it was a miracle he was alive at all. Tears flowed from the girl's eyes. All that was left was to hope for a miracle that could save Travis' life. He lay on the floor and felt his strength leaving his body. His life, which was in full swing in the extermination of monsters, was coming to an end. Travis only regretted that Lucy would have to be left alone. He worries about her as a child who will have to grow up in this cruel world, gratefully accepting her love despite his shortcomings. But Lucy couldn't believe that the guy was really about to die. She shouted that, if necessary, she would turn back time. She was ready to pay any price to keep Travis alive, and admitted that she loved the guy. The darkness engulfed him for a moment, and then he realized that he had once again become a child, sitting with a toy near his parents. They admired what a wonderful son they had. Travis could not understand what happened, although he guessed that it was memories. Father cheerfully said that he woke up because he wanted to see Daddy. He carefully took his mother's hand, who looked at him tenderly. The main character realized that these were not memories, because he can not only observe, but also move his body at will. Travis couldn't believe that he didn't die after all, but returned to the past when he was first born. Lucy must have activated a miracle gift before his death that can make the impossible possible. This girl had abilities on the level of the 12 zodiacs, so it was not surprising that she was able to turn back time. He never thought he would be able to see his parents again. After all, they died during the invasion of monsters, when he was only 6 years old. Since then he lived, torturing hatred for monsters. But he was given another chance to change everything. This time he will change the future with his own hands. Even though he retained his memories from before the regression, he was still a small child now. In other words, he can't do anything. His whole current life is to eat, poop, sleep and repeat. He tried to concentrate, and was able to do important actions so that his small body tensed. It was a lightning-fast somersault to the side. At that moment, Travis remembered that he had a sister named Alice, who was 4 years older than him. His memories of her were even weaker than of his parents. But there is one moment that he remembers clearly. How she comforted her little brother, hugging him tightly on the day he lost his parents to monsters. And now she hugged him in the same way, holding him to her with great love. When Travis was 9 months old, he realized that the atmosphere there is a barely noticeable mana. Now he realized that before his regression he had a lot of problems because there was very little mana in his body. So he began to absorb mana from time to time, concentrating on the limits of his body. He found out that his little sister has an incredible amount of mana. However, too much mana can be dangerous to her health. Therefore, he had to help her learn to control her mana before it reached the point of danger. Travis learned to walk and talk, and when he was 4 years old, he deliberately began to hone his skills by spending a lot of time outside the home. One day, Alice took her brother with her to her friends, who were clearly happy about it. Alice has always been popular among the residents of the area. However, that day some girl began to be indignant at why Alice brought her brother to the playground. Travis got angry and said that he was actually dragged by force, and in addition called the girl fat. He thought to himself that he definitely didn't want to play with children, since he was an adult inside. His sister ran up to Travis and cheerfully asked him if he wanted to play cops and robbers, promising to teach him everything. However, Travis did not like this game, seeming cruel. At that moment, Alice froze in horror when she saw something ahead. A stray dog stood in front of them and looked at him. He remembered how that day the older sister immediately covered her little brother. Travis took her hand and prepared to protect her himself. On that tragic day, he could do nothing but tremble with fear in her arms. This time and in this life everything will be different. He will be able to protect Alice and not let her be offended. Travis activated his mana and used his mind to drive away the stray dog. The snarling monster immediately got scared and ran away. The brother told the girl not to worry anymore, because he is strong. She immediately realized that it was the same thing called mana, and began to beg her brother to teach her. But Travis could not understand why the girl did not feel the mana inside her. Then the guy agreed to teach her in the near future, so that Alice would realize her strength and be able to resist evil. He wanted to correct the events of that tragic day in the past when his entire family died. Travis must prevent it at all costs to change the future. The guy began to teach the girl how to control the power of mana, but realized that he would have to explain for a long time that mana must first be learned to control. But the girl found it difficult to cope with this. Alice kept asking Travis to wait until she was well fed with mana. Travis watched the chaos Alice was causing and knew she had a long way to go. One evening his whole family was sitting on the couch watching some program on TV. Hugging tenderly, the mother told her son that next year he would turn 6 years old, and he would go to school, although Travis did not want to go there. Looking at her, he could barely restrain himself, but in the end he promised his mother that he would go to school as soon as he turned 6 years old. The thought of being stuck between loudly crying children was already giving him a headache. The man on TV announced that there was barely a minute left before the future, which would appear in the history textbook, and invited everyone to look at the screen together. There was a girl who sat on a helicopter and reported that now she is in the place where the tablets of ancestors, left by the greatest kings and queens of the dynasty, rest. A new era for the whole world is about to begin. She said that after humanity came to understand how to use mana, people became interested only in its use, but they did not know anything about the essence of mana. When mana gathers in one place, it attracts monsters, and in 1999, just before the beginning of the 21st century, this incident occurred, a catastrophe, as a result of which the world lost 30% of its entire population. Humanity was gripped by fear. Everyone was forced to live in fear of the reappearance of monsters. In this new era, the old administration and the old laws lost all power. The only force that could stop these monsters was, oddly enough, mana, which became a new criterion for dividing society. Rich players with strong mana appeared. Having ousted the previous government, they became a new rising force. But by then the damage had become too great, entire cities were destroyed, and the survivors were just awaiting their end. Soon, when only despair remained, a small spark was born. A celestial maiden who was once a national hero and now became the first celestial maiden appeared. She was able to curb the omnipresence of mana because she had the special trait of dispersing mana, which came from a gift called white silver. She needed players who could protect the sacred altar, the 12 zodiacs, which became swords protecting the earth. The players were supposed to be led by a mana management bureau, but in reality, most players with power began to found clans and act for their own purposes. Then the celestial maiden, who wanted to stop the monsters, with the support of public opinion of all nations, appointed the greatest players as the 12 zodiacs. Players who became one of the 12 zodiacs remained members of the clan. They were to use the power of the Mana Management Bureau in their clans to grow an industry that would be controlled by the player clan. The woman addressed the 12 zodiacs, giving them energy for future exploits. The city began to be covered in a blue glow. The girl on the air said that a cocoon will now open, a dome-shaped border that prevents the omnipresence of mana and will fill the horizon with silver. Alice immediately ran out to the balcony to look at it. A guy appeared on the screen, who was glad that they could finally live in peace. People around began to thank the Heavenly Maiden for this. The girl said that she also wanted to pray and invited everyone to do it together. But Travis could not understand who to pray to, because God did not exist in this world. On the day their world was destroyed, God died. But Alice only asked God to make their family happy. Then Travis also wished for this, at least in this life, he wants to live happily with his family. When Travis turned 6 years old, the sad incident in which he lost his family was approaching. At the age of 6, his mother took him to school. The teacher said that a new friend had joined them today and asked if Travis would like to introduce himself to the others. The teacher asked if he wanted to add something. It seemed to him that the guys wanted to make friends with him, but Travis said that he didn't really want to be friends with the little brats. One day, the same girl whom he once called fat appeared in his class. When she saw him, she became furious. The girl immediately began to aggressively rush at the guy, trying to hit him. Having rebuffed her, he ran away, thinking about how much he hated the children's company. Taking one book, Travis went to the table to somehow pass the time at school. At this time, 3 guys approached his table, where he and some girl were sitting. One of them, apparently the most important one, began to mockingly say that the girl was reading books again, after which the leader took the ribbon from the girl and began to mock her. At this moment, Travis could not stand it and intervened in the dialogue, saying that it looked childish. He approached the guy and angrily asked if this really amused him. In response, he tried to teach Travis a lesson, but his attempts were unsuccessful. Rather, on the contrary, Travis was able to teach the guy a lesson. Holding the ribbon in his hands, he told the girl not to let her take it away next time. She thanked Michael for protecting her and returning the tape. Travis realized that the guy he had just fought with and the fat girl had a large amount of mana, a little more than other people, while the rest of the children had about the usual level. But the girl he helped had much more mana, perhaps even more than Alice. The main thing was that she knows how to control the mana, so it opens up and does not dissipate. A girl like her should have become one of the 12 future zodiacs. If he now lives in a world where mana is power, it will be useful for him to be near it, given its potential. Looking at him, the girl offered to be close friends. In the evening, Alice brought home a paper carnation she made for her mother at school, and after looking at it, Travis realized that she was really bad at handicrafts. He remembered how, before the regression, he was forced to make paper carnations in elementary school on Parents' Day. Then he no longer had parents, and he made flowers together with everyone, after which he put one carnation in a bag, and his grandmother found it there and decorated the entrance to her house with it. Although he made one every year, he never passed it on directly because he thought that the moment he gave her the carnation, his longing for his family and his anger at all the monsters would come out. So he couldn't pass his grandma's feelings until the day she passed away. That's why in this life he will show her his feelings. On May 4th, the government of the Heavenly Maiden decided to open roads that had been closed until then so that people could meet their relatives. In preparation for the appearance of monsters on the roads, they recruited players en masse. However, the monster Kraken, which appeared without warning, killed countless people. His family was no exception, because that day they decided to visit their grandmother and, like many others, were wiped off the face of the earth by the monster. That day, Travis overheard his father suggesting that he go to his grandmother's since the long weekend began tomorrow. It is because of the Kraken that they should not go to their grandmother. Travis must stop them no matter what. When Travis became an orphan, his only relative was his maternal grandmother. Before his regression, he grew up with her. After the loss of his family, his grandmother took care of him every second, since after psychological trauma he existed like a living dead. Travis suggested that his parents go to his grandmother's next weekend. He insisted that they go another day. However, no matter what he says now, he is just a child, in which case he should act like a child so as not to arouse suspicion from his parents. It quickly occurred to the guy that Children's Day was coming soon, and he told his parents that he wanted to go to an amusement park and ride on a Viking pirate ship. He heard that it was not so far from home. Here my sister also got involved, saying that she also really wants to go there and try to ride on a pirate ship. The father began to think, then asked his wife if they should go to the amusement park tomorrow. Travis was happy that it worked. Although he can't stop the monster from appearing, he can still save his family from encountering it, and by doing so he will change the future. Mom's phone rang. Someone wanted to tell her something important about Grandma. Travis became nervous, because his whole plan could be covered with a copper basin. Everyone began to ask excitedly what happened to Grandma. It turned out that she felt bad and fainted. Travis could not believe that this could happen, because before his regression nothing like this had happened to his grandmother. The father turned to the guy and said that they could not go to the amusement park at this time and suggested that they go to their grandmother as soon as the roads were opened. And then he began to guess that something could have happened to his grandmother precisely because he tried to change the future. And now he does not know how to prevent his family from meeting the monster. Michael was sure that something had changed. It spoke to his current self, different from his past self, filled with mana from a young age, combined with the experience accumulated before the regression. If their encounter with the Kraken could not be avoided, he would fight this monster. For this reason, the guy was forced to agree that they would go to their grandmother. Depending on how much monsters threaten the world, the National Mana Management Bureau classifies them as follows. Class 9 are monsters that can pollute the environment or cause plague. Class 8 are monsters that cause physical harm that can disrupt people's daily lives. Class 7 is monsters committing robbery and murder. 6th class are monsters or a group of monsters that can disrupt city government. 5th class or a group of monsters can disrupt city government and pose a great threat to government. 4th class monsters that control groups of monsters destroy people and threaten the development of humanity. Class 3, a lone monster that can disrupt the governance of the country, causes harm through natural disasters. The 2nd class, a single monster, can disrupt the governance of the country, capable of causing catastrophic damage, and Class 1, the only monster that threatens the survival of humanity. The Kraken is a Class 3 monster. Before Travis's regression, by the time he graduated from the academy, he was demoted to Class 4 because the current players became stronger, whereas previously they were not even close to that level to resist the Kraken. Needless to say, Travis cannot defeat him now. He only has one goal. He needs to buy time until 12 Zodiacs appear to defeat the monster. This is his limit as a child. Armed only with scissors and a utility knife, he would like to take a kitchen knife. But his mother will notice if the knife disappears. However, even with such tools, he can inflict at least a little damage to the monsters if he covers them with mana. Michael was fully prepared for the upcoming battle. When they were already on the way to Grandma's, Mom said that he could sleep a little if he wanted. Well, apparently only his sister wanted to sleep, and she fell asleep right on his shoulder. Before his regression, the Kraken appeared when they were crossing the bridge, but they were already halfway there, and the main character could not understand why the Kraken did not appear. He assumed that the future was influenced by something unknown. Like dancing lights, sparks swirled in the air of the evening darkness as he was deep in thought, and suddenly, in an instant, a deafening explosion thundered on the bridge. As if mocking his desperate desires, he finally appeared. A third-class monster, majestic in its terrifying form, absorbed the energy of the whirlwind of a natural disaster. The surrounding world seemed to freeze in anticipation of an unimaginable storm, subordinate to this monster with huge tentacles, like invisible threads. Panic immediately set in and gripped everyone who saw this terrible sight. Horror sparkled in people's eyes, and their hearts beat at a frantic pace. But to the horror of the residents, the players immediately began to leave the bridge, and people had no choice but to hope that they could survive. The father asked everyone to be careful and said that they needed to leave, because there was destructive chaos on the street. He asked everyone to remain calm and trust him that if they moved forward calmly, they would be able to evacuate safely. The family began to carefully get out of the car. Alice's whole face was in tears. In addition, she also fell and could not get up. Travis came outside, looked around and said he was fine and could go. Although many players were in a panic when a Class 3 monster appeared, experienced players quickly assessed the situation and focused on evacuating people. However, the Kraken is not the only problem. You need to get away from the bridge, on which several more monsters should appear. Class 7 monsters appeared in front of the family, and attacked people with renewed vigor. A man shouted and asked if anyone knew healing magic. A woman tried to run up to him, but she was immediately killed. The father himself was already all on edge, however. He said that no matter what happened, he would protect his family, and told them not to look back and just run. After some time, a powerful explosion occurred on the bridge. The road was blocked due to a fire. Apparently help could not get to them. The guy remembered about the support of the 12 Zodiacs. Before his regression of the 12 Zodiacs, who arrived at the scene after 30 minutes of the monster's appearance, he could not understand whether the players would be able to protect everyone if the escape routes were blocked. Travis decided that even if he had to put his life on the line, he would protect his family. Michael told the family that the players will block the monster's attacks. Even if something dangerous happens, the sister will protect them. He understood that if he left, the only person who knew how to handle the mana was Alice. The main character began to fight the monster with renewed vigor. He used heavenly steps. The mobility skill he used as a player before regression was used for the first time in this form, and it seemed to be too much for a child's body. Travis realized that he could only quickly get to the Kraken if he used a new technique. The people present could not understand what the child was doing, moving straight towards danger. And then the main character faced his first problem in the form of 7th grade monsters. Travis used mana coding. He began to attack the monsters to quickly get to the main boss. The first monsters were given to him without any problems, and he easily defeated them. But there were problems with one of the monsters. Travis was unable to dodge it, and the monster managed to attack him. The thirst for killing all the monsters in his path increasingly overwhelmed him, as in a previous life. And now he is becoming an undead word. When the guy landed to get some rest, a monster crawled out from under the car, but Travis managed to dodge it. With a slight movement of his hand, the guy was able to cut this monster in half with a stationary knife. And after some time he found himself right in front of the boss. Travis decided that he would fight him under any circumstances, because he needed to protect his family and not lose them this time. With clear, thoughtful movements, Michael made his way closer and closer to the Kraken. The main character was overcome with anger, and in a matter of seconds he began to strike with scissors. One of the sides of the scissors was no longer there, but he still had one more side, so he was full of determination and confidence, not seeing any problem in this. Travis jumped out and was ready to deliver another attack to the monster, but something didn't go according to plan, and the monster threw him back with its tentacles. The guy was almost out of mana, and at that time the monster decided to collapse the bridge on which Travis was standing. The main character managed to stay on his feet and not fall into the water. He felt the aggression boiling up in him even more. The main character looked like he was in a movie. Explosions were happening behind him, but his gaze at that time was cold-blooded. Stopping for a second, the guy noticed that the picture in his eyes was becoming fuzzy. Then he completely fell to the ground. He couldn't move, and apparently he was out of mana. Travis thought that if he lost consciousness, then everything he had strived for would be in vain, and after realizing this, he found the strength to at least somehow move. He couldn't just die like that. After all, he wanted to live happily with his family in this life. He did not want to die here and now. Travis gritted his teeth in pain and tried to get up. At this time, his sister appeared behind the main character and immediately began to hug him. The guy could not believe that his sister was able to use a miracle gift that could rebuild the world by changing its laws. Before the regression, Travis knew 4 people with miraculous gifts. The only one he could trust with his life was his partner Lucy. After Michael realized how enormous the amount of mana his sister possessed, he thought that she had a miraculous gift. The girl said that everything is fine now, because she is next to her brother, and he noticed that all his wounds began to heal. And not only that, this light protects them from the Kraken. But there is a price to be paid for using a miracle gift. Those who possess it must pay a huge price in order to be able to change the laws of the world. Travis immediately began asking his sister if she was okay. It is clear that her body could not stand it, and she suddenly fainted. She had very little mana left, but it was enough to keep her heart beating, because mana was not a problem for Alice. He kindly told his sister to sleep peacefully, because he would take care of the rest. After the sister used the miracle, the Kraken opened its eyes and was able to spot the girl. Travis, he won't let him do what he has in mind. He will not let him do anything bad to Alice. Even though he is her younger brother, he is still obliged to protect her. The main character prepared to deal a powerful blow to the enemy. Even if his mana has been restored, It is not possible to kill the evil spirits now. He was glad that the future had already changed. His family had not died. Travis had nothing to fear anymore. Now he just had to hold out until the 12 zodiacs arrived. During the Kraken's manifestation, he was on a bridge, a short distance from this place. The main character heard a man complaining that the traffic jam was annoying him. He said that the car was not moving at all. He began to ask the driver if he was sure that he was driving the car correctly, and if he had fallen asleep. In response, he began to explain this by saying that there were a lot of traffic jams on the road and now it's like that everywhere. The man began to threaten that he would call the driver to account if he did not start moving faster. He said that he was in a hurry to protect civilians. The driver felt that there was a huge amount of mana in this passenger. At that moment, the mysterious passenger dialed someone's number and introduced himself as Jack. In response, he was informed that, according to the latest information, a third-class monster awaits them ahead. Jack's eyes lit up and he immediately tried to figure out where exactly the monster was waiting for them. The driver, perplexed, understood that there was a strong and dangerous monster ahead, but the man, on the contrary, for some reason looked frighteningly joyful. Jack was informed that the Kraken was apparently on the bridge, and they could not deal with it only with the help of those already there. He began to try to find out the exact extent of the damage, but apparently there is complete chaos there now. The man then got out of the car and walked forward. He was going to get to the bridge on foot, because they would never get there at this rate. But if you go there on foot, the journey will take 2 hours. However, Jack was confident that 30 minutes would be enough. He used the boost and began to run towards the enemy. This man turned out to be the head of the Blade clan, a flame demon named Jack. 30 minutes later, the man was still able to get to the scene and saw a huge beam of light in front of him. There was no one at the scene. He could not understand who was capable of such a level of magic. This meant that he would meet a new entity. After some time, Travis saw that 12 zodiacs had arrived, and it was clear that the first person they noticed was Jack. After the man appeared, for unknown reasons, the Kraken immediately disappeared. A gift called Pyrokinesis is a gift that allows him to freely control flames, which is the reason why he is nicknamed the Flame Demon. Jack turned around to look around, and he noticed that there were 2 children next to him. He saw the flow of mana around the girl, but could not understand whether she had used magic before. He believed that she lost consciousness because she used all her mana, and Travis once protected her from the Kraken. The man knew that together they were stronger. He couldn't wait to see how powerful they would grow as players. He said that Travis did not need to be scared. He was not going to fight them. He said he didn't need to be scared. He wasn't going to fight them. There's only one reason he's here, and that's to get rid of the Kraken. Jack told Travis not to go anywhere. After all, the Kraken was about to come out of the water and start attacking. Before the regression, as it turned out, Jack knew Travis. A lot of people were talking about this guy at the time. Jack offered Travis a fight on equal terms. However, the main character said that Jack would regret it later. He immediately used his gift, and then burst into flames. In the past, the Flame Demon always tried to fight Travis whenever possible. The main character was thinking about how to protect his sister. Because he could not defeat him even once, the demon became stronger with each battle. He is truly a monster who was born to fight. At this time, reinforcements approached them. The woman on the helicopter was angry at the man for calling her Holy Mother, even though she was one of the 12 zodiacs and was actually called Holy Mother. Jack could have simply flown in by helicopter, but he continued to run near the bridge. The partner said that reinforcements would arrive soon and Jack just needed to focus on fighting the monster. After some time, the Kraken, as expected, actually came out of the water. At that moment, Jack began to use his gift, and immediately ignited. He was ready to deal the final fatal blow to the monster in order to defeat it, and he did it in a split second. Travis was glad that the monster was finally defeated. Running up to the children, the woman noticed that there was not a single wound on them. But then she remembered that she had recently used a miracle gift and thought that this miracle had healed the wounds of these children. The woman tried to touch Alice to make sure of this, but he very angrily replied that she should not touch her. She noticed that Travis had a murderous aura and could not understand how a child could have such strong energy. Finally, she was informed that the rescue squad had arrived, and she suggested taking the children to the hospital first. Meanwhile, the news said that at 5 p.m., a Kraken suddenly appeared on the bridge, which led to the death of many people. It also said that the rescue operation had been going on for quite some time, the government, and heavenly heroes commented on this tragedy. The world was in danger, and images of more and more victims flashed on the screen. The hospital reported that Alice suffered greatly from exhaustion because she ran out of mana. But she would be fine after taking the Mani potion, so Travis shouldn't worry too much. At this time, the parents came into the room. Their faces were tired from everything that was happening. Travis said that the girl was sleeping because she did not have enough mana, but she took a mana potion and would soon come to her senses. The father began to swear because he could not understand why Travis ran away and did not listen to him. However, the main character did not ask for forgiveness, because in the end, his family survived and this is the best outcome for everyone. However, the parents said that they were not concerned about the outcome. They asked why he put himself in danger by running towards the Kraken. He knew very well how terrible it was to lose his family, so now he tried to explain that he acted based on his inner feelings and wanted to save everyone. At some point, he burst into tears and rushed into his mother's arms. He no longer needs to fight monsters. Now he can truly live like a child, which is probably what his parents want from him. The next morning, Travis's parents informed him that they needed to go on business. He was told that he had to stay in the room and wait for them. The guy nodded obediently. When they left, he sat down next to him and began to thoughtfully chew a chocolate bar. At that moment, Jack entered the room and brought chocolate chip cookies. The main character could not understand what this man wanted from them. He assumed that perhaps he was just crazy. The man started a conversation and began asking Travis how old he and his sister were, how long they had been using mana, whether it was causing them harm. After all these questions, Travis realized that the man wants to invite him to the academy, turn him into a player and fight with him when he becomes an adult. In fact, he is raising people for sparring because he has run out of opponents. After a long conversation, the man left the room. He didn't care whether it was a miracle or not. He just wanted to find out what power this girl and guy had. If the miracle is as rare a gift as they claim, this child will not be neglected by the whole world once they report it. But if this happens, she will never be able to live a normal life again. He needed to think carefully about this new information, and the man decided to eat something sweet to regain some strength. The day after the Kraken attack, the family came to their grandmother. The guy couldn't figure out who his sister had such abilities. Looks like it was passed down from my mom. His gift before regression was Berserker, a gift through which the more mana he consumes, the stronger his physical and magical abilities become. However, as the name suggests, the more mana is consumed, the more sanity is lost, even to the point of insanity. Then he lost consciousness. This was the best outcome, since in this case he would not be punished by losing his mind. He knows the true nature of a berserker. When the grandmother approached the guy, he didn't even feel her presence. He couldn't gather his thoughts and find words when his grandmother sat down next to him. She always understood Travis, no matter whether it was about problems, personal feelings, or just small talk. He asked why she was not sleeping at such a late time. It became clear to him that this was exactly what he wanted. Looking at his grandmother, he himself did not notice how he became a child. Then their mother joined them and brought tea. The grandmother listened to the story about how her daughter was surprised when she heard the news about her fainting. Now she said that she was fine, just the mother should understand that the old lady next door likes to overdramatize events. As it turned out, the grandmother slipped and fainted, but escaped with only scratches. The grandmother admitted that she was distracted by something strange. She was walking up the stairs when she saw him. She definitely doesn't have senile insanity yet. Some stranger waved his arms and asked the grandmother not to come here. It wasn't sleepy and it looked strange, and then everything went wrong. It could have ended with everyone dying. If this happened, she would not forgive herself. She gently stroked Travis's head, trying to guess what secret her cute fawn was hiding. His grandmother asked him what he wanted to become when he grew up. At that moment he immediately remembered his future where he still hadn't decided what he wanted to become. Then she began to reassure him, saying that it was normal if he didn't know. She said with tenderness that Travis is still young so he can take his time, let him experience happy and difficult events, make many friends and fight with enemies. If by then he still doesn't know what he wants to become, Travis can just keep living until he figures it out. Mom said that Grandma says the right things. Time is on Michael's side, so he can do whatever he wants. The grandmother said that she would always support her grandson. Michael decided to give his grandmother a flower that he made from paper at school. If she puts it somewhere near the entrance, then Grandma will want to show it off to the neighbors. He didn't care if Grandma never found out the secret, he just wanted to give her happy memories in this life. After all, Travis was so grateful that his grandmother raised him. One day, the parents announced that Alice and Travis would have a younger brother or sister. It remained a mystery to the parents why the guy burst into tears and began to thank his mother for the fact that the best thing that happened to him from birth and is happening now. The girls at school asked the guy if he missed his mother. At this time he pretended not to hear them, considering such hints to be humiliation. That same chubby girl gloated and said that she wished they would just throw him out like a mixed-blood dog. Travis practically went crazy with anger. He even dreamed that the teacher threw him into a cage with animals. One morning the main character meets Eve. She tells him that she is reading the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. He began to remember that he had already heard this, where Sherlock and the professor at the end fall from a waterfall and die. During breaks, the kids often played with toy swords, imagining real fights. Jack once again tried to prove that he was the strongest in the group, and just at that moment Travis appeared. Jack invited him to have a sword fight. At this moment, the main character looked at Eve and thought. He accepted the fight and began to fight with Jack with swords. Considering who Travis was before the regression, he was able to dodge Jack's attacks with ease. The guy finally defeated Jack in front of everyone. He then said it was a good fight. Travis never thought that he would ever see Excalibur, much less that he would be able to master it. However, the sword obeyed him, and after Travis raised it up, everyone began to idolize him. According to the news, it was reported that 7th grade goblin monsters had appeared. The Knightly Order was on the front line. It was also reported that 2 people had fled the scene, and according to the Mana Management Bureau, it was very likely that goblins were hiding in crowded places. Everyone who saw them should hurry up and report authorities. Travis got very tired while playing with other children, feeling mortally tired every time. He could not understand how the other children were not tired. Since the future has changed, he needs to continue to accumulate mana at every opportunity. Over time, Travis would begin to perceive mana as power, so the amount of it would not harm him. After that incident, his maximum mana volume had definitely increased. At this time, for some unknown reason, the fat woman handed the guy a chocolate bar, but she immediately changed her mind and began to argue because of her. Travis got angry and did not yield. As soon as the teacher noticed this, he began to separate them and offered to share the chocolate equally. Travis agreed, broke off half and handed the other half to the fat woman, then retired and began to eat the chocolate with gusto. Sometimes he felt lonely because he always stayed away while everyone else was eating together. One day, a girl approached him and offered to play catch-up. She said everyone wants to play with him. Travis had the role of catching up with everyone. This could have been real bad luck. However, he was lucky and managed to get the fat one, and then he began to run away from her. She was angry not only at the guy, but apparently at the whole world. Well, then all the children's games were interrupted by a huge shadow that covered them from above. A rank 7 monster appeared in front of them, the goblin that was talked about in the news. The monster swung at one of the children, clearly with the intention of destroying her. It was a girl who, frightened, fell to the floor. But fortunately for her, just at that time Travis appeared on the horizon, who was ready to teach the monster a lesson. The main character maneuverably avoided the goblin's attacks. Travis shouted to the monster in a thunderstorm that he was very annoying, and now he would kill him in an instant, and then go to deal with others. The teacher also did not waste time and fought with the monsters. Then she threw her broom straight at the monster, which obviously saved the guy. Then she picked up the girl and the guy in her arms and began to run away from their opponents. And right at that moment one of the goblins attacked them. But Travis couldn't just watch this and decided to use mana to somehow help the man. And as expected it actually worked. He hit the monster. The teacher and the children ran into the room, and he immediately fell to the floor, holding his stomach. He began asking the director what happened to the other children. As it turned out, they had all been evacuated, and Travis, in turn, looked for someone. The director said that they had already sent a distress signal. Now they need to wait in the room until the players appear. At this moment it turned out that one of the children was still outside. The teacher decided that he would go and help the poor child. At this time, Eve observed the entire incident. But she couldn't just stand there and watch, but decided to help the poor guy left outside by using mana to repel the monster's attacks. As soon as the monster retreated a little, she immediately ran up to Jack and asked if he was okay. They got up and ran away. The guy grabbed the girl by the hand, and they began to run away from the monster as fast as they could. They needed to hide and wait for adults to come and save them. They decided that they would climb to the very top, and the monster continued to hope that he would feast on the children. The guy helped the girl climb up and told her to stay there for now, and he will fight until the adults come. He recalled watching a broadcast about how the flame demon defeated the monster. Jack also wanted to become like his idol. He just has to do everything as he was taught. It's clear that the guy didn't have a chance. His toy sword immediately flew out of his hands. Jack was already preparing for the worst. He was very lucky that Travis arrived at that moment. He said that Jack was a real man because he decided to fight to the last. At that moment, a goblin flew out at Travis and attacked him with a furious cry, but Travis managed to fight him off. Then he completely defeated him, finally finishing him off. The main character saw that some kind of stone fell out of the monster, and Jack immediately began hugging Michael and saying that he behaved like a real hero. Soon a girl ran up to them, and now the two of them were hugging Travis tightly. Left alone, Travis fell into a thoughtful state and stood silently. He understood that Eve had a lot of mana. Jack was also safe, so they managed to leave. He saw a huge monster walking towards the building and decided to get rid of it. Travis was not at all afraid of this goblin and was ready to deal with him right on the spot. The enemy immediately attacked the guy, but he was easily able to dodge his attack and ended up behind him. Travis then went on the attack. An incomprehensible stone also fell out of this monster. Michael silently prayed that his friends would be okay. After some time, parents and government officials began to arrive at the school. When asked by the adults, Travis explained that the goblin was already badly wounded, and he simply disappeared after receiving several blows. Even if they were 7th or 8th grade goblin monsters, they were not so weak that a 7-year-old could defeat them. You can defeat a monster only by destroying their cores, using weapons enhanced with mana or strong physical attacks. The guy began to come up with excuses, saying that most likely he accidentally killed a goblin who had previously killed another goblin. It seemed that these two were not on the best terms. Travis continued to insist that it was an accident, and the goblins themselves destroyed each other. The government expressed its deepest apologies to the school for this incident, and what the children had to go through. From now on, they will do everything possible for the well-being of children. To the general applause, the main character of this day, Travis, was presented with an award as the bravest child, predicting a great future. Now the guy was sure that he was definitely a corpse. In honor of this event, the school staged a performance, according to the plot of which, a long time ago, there lived a princess named Snow White. Her face was white and beautiful. Travis was given the main role, and at the decisive moment, he took the stage. He approached Snow White lying on the grass among the flowers. At this time, people in the hall began to whisper that they did not believe that this child could kill the monster. An angry monster who doesn't care about human life. The monster that he finally finished off, Travis. As planned according to the script, the guy bent down to kiss Snow White. He gently touched her skin with his lips, and she opened her eyes. The hall exploded with applause. After the performance ended, Travis and the girl bowed. As time passed, Travis moved to high school. At that moment he was 8 years old. As expected, Travis was very different from the other students. One day after school, Eva's father approached the children. He began talking to the children, asking how they were doing, and then invited them to visit and said that he would cook them a delicious lunch. Travis looked at this man with surprise, because he had already seen his face somewhere. When the father prepared everything, the children looked at this food as if it were a creation of God. It was truly magnificent. Along with the other guests there was Fatty, who was proud to be Eve's friend. Travis couldn't understand why children reacted this way to these foods. He did not immediately realize what he had drunk, but he felt that his mana began to be restored. As it turned out, it was a potion, an elixir that helps restore mana inside the body. And then Travis realized what was going on. Eve's father is the man who revolutionized the potion market. He has a formula that will make him the absolute king of the land market in the future, and will receive a significant position in one of the 3 largest companies in the world. The next day at school, he noticed that a new girl had come to class. She looked like a monster. The girl was one of the demi-humans, a term used for children who are born with altered genes due to exposure to poorly distributed mana. People who have lost their loved ones to monsters hate them because they look like monsters. But the main character was not opposed to her. Like everyone else, Travis was not an ideal student, mainly because he was regularly involved in fights, was often left after school and was called to school by his parents. That day, the MANHWA test for the 4th grade was finally over. Jack's performance was definitely above average, but Eve's MANHWA was completely close to the maximum. But they decided that there was a mistake, and it was recorded as average. The next day at school, as usual, there was lunch. The demi-humans in this school were not all kind. Travis remembered how once, before the regression, he had a conversation with one of his friends. The day after their conversation, they fought together with some indescribable monster. As a result, his friend died. He couldn't understand why he remembered this right now. The children went out onto the playground to play catch-up. It fell to Travis to be the host and start the game. The fat girl was very angry that he could easily catch up with her, but he already had problems with the half-man. He couldn't catch up with her as easily as the other children. He also found Jack, but failed to catch him, and the fat woman, having deceived everyone, continued to run again. Another girl joined her, wanting to play again, and then began to run even faster using her mana. Travis went crazy and started chasing all the kids at the same time. Shortly before this, Eva went down the stairs to look for somewhere to hide, but remembered that they had agreed not to hide in buildings and headed towards the entrance. The girl got a little lost and went into some library. She noticed that on one of the mountains of books lay a bright red book, which immediately caught her eye. Then she was joined by the rest of the children, who understood where Eve was by her mana. Travis told the teacher that he was looking for Eva, because when she was playing, she suddenly disappeared. The teacher was concerned about this incident, and said that he could take the children home, after which they got into the car. Travis had never driven in a car like this. The next day, the teacher announced that she would sign Travis up as a candidate for the 4th grade president election, which was unexpected for him. The thing was that he could not understand why the teacher did this, because he was not a particularly outstanding student. At this time, the fat girl made fun of him in every possible way in order to further aggravate the situation, with ridicule and loud comments, trying to discredit the main character in front of the class. The guy argued, proving that he was not fit to be class president, honestly expressing doubts about his abilities and ability to successfully occupy this role. It turned out that Travis was the only candidate for the post of class president. The unexpected situation created an atmosphere of uncertainty and tension around him. He had to decide what to do in this case and understand what he was capable of. One girl from the class also decided to nominate herself. However, this did not make Travis happy. As it turned out, this girl's father bought hamburgers for the whole class, and they were very happy with this unexpected treat. Although in many ways it was a pleasant turn of events, which softened the tense situation a little. The children's reaction was visible. They filled the class with fun and joy, and the smell of fresh hamburgers created a festive atmosphere. This gesture of kindness from the girl's father brought positive emotions and brought the class closer together, diffusing tense emotions. One of the guys was so happy about this hamburger that his eyes widened. It seemed like he had rarely seen something so majestic and delicious. Laughter and wonder filled the class, creating a friendly and cheerful atmosphere. The spring excursion for the high school was planned for a bright spring morning. The students were looking forward to this day because they knew that exciting adventures and new discoveries awaited them. The teachers carefully organized the route, prepared interesting tasks and fun competitions to make the excursion for the children unforgettable. With a baggage full of knowledge and joyful emotions, the children were ready for this exciting day. Travis still became vice president of the 4th grade, and that girl became president. Travis's mom made him a lunch to take on the road with a detailed excursion route and a message that she loved him. The main character could not understand when his mother managed to write this. In his mind she was always busy, especially in the morning. It seemed a mystery to him how she found the time to prepare such a description of the excursion. Perhaps she worked on it in advance to create something for her son amazing. One of the children was sure that doshirak is the best food for trips to nature, arguing that doshirak is easy to prepare, it does not require special conditions and is always applicable for any occasion. This caused laughter and amusement among the other children. Soon a discussion of food for the trip turned into a fun conversation about their preferences and funny culinary stories. And the fat girl, unlike the others, ate sushi, but she was imbued with the situation of one of the students. She understood that this guy's mother did not bother to cook him lunch. This caused her sympathy, and she offered to share her lunch. This gesture of kindness and understanding created a warm atmosphere in the group, and everyone cheerfully continued discussing food and the spring excursion. Suddenly they heard a noise and saw a stranger running away from something incomprehensible in the forest. His frightened look suggested that something unusual was happening there. This added mystery to an already interesting spring excursion. The children discussed what could force the stranger to flee, and imagined the most amazing scenarios of the incident. As it turned out, he was being chased by a 7th-grade monster, a hellhound. After some time, these monsters completely filled almost the entire forest. Their ominous silhouettes and sounds of horror were everywhere. It became clear that the situation was becoming more and more serious, and the children realized that they were facing a real battle. The tension grew. However, they were able to resist these terrible creatures. In the afternoon, the children played in the forest in the fresh air, enjoying a beautiful day, dancing, hide-and-seek and football, filling the spring forest with joy and fun, which allowed them to again feel the carefree and joy of childhood. However, Travis did not want to play with them at all, preferring to watch all this from the side, solitude with his own thoughts, peering into the beauty of nature and realizing the amazing moments of this day. It was then that he realized how precious these moments of peace and quiet were to him. The guy was very happy because they went on this picnic. It was a special day for him, when he could enjoy nature, friends and fresh air. All this was remembered by him as a wonderful adventure that he appreciated, finding joy and inspiration. At that moment, a roar was heard behind the mountain where they were. Sudden danger was very close and turned their carefree picnic into a more serious adventure that required concern for their safety. The fat girl noticed that the monster began to approach them. Her eyes widened in horror, and she warned everyone about the approaching danger. The children's gazes were filled with tension, but they immediately gathered together, ready to act together at this unforeseen moment. Travis could not understand why this happened today. It seemed to him that their picnic on the day of bright sun and spring joy should have passed without any incident. He peered into the surrounding forest, trying to unravel the reason for the unexpected approach of the monster and assess possible actions. That day, it all turned into a tragic event with many victims in the city where the monsters made their way. The monster was about to eat the fat girl. Fortunately, Travis was nearby, who was attacking the monster. He focused and, having assessed the situation, realized that the moment had come to act. Boldly stepping forward, he accepted the battle. His decisive actions inspired the others, and together they formed a single defensive line, ready to repel the monster's attack. Although everything was normal, everyone became very worried in this battle, desperately fighting and attacking the evil spirits. When one kills monsters, he becomes an undead player who is hated by monsters as he goes mad with rage for killing them. At that moment, he revealed to them his unapproachable soul, which had to be carefully hidden. The uncontrollable power of his emotions awakened the inner world hidden from prying eyes. This frankness turned out to be inevitable. Despite the desire to keep the secret, his eyes suddenly shone brighter than the stars of the night sky, betraying the real state of his soul. He realized that it was inevitable to give them a chance to see the real him, fragile and sincere. The main character saw that hounds were gathering in packs around them and thought that they had better run away, since he might not be able to save everyone. The path leading forward was a single narrow path, the edges of which merged with the heavens, a path marked by fate. Its glare called to search for adventures and solve mysteries. On this winding path amazing opportunities and unknown wonders met them at every step, inflaming them more and more determination. This trail led them to a mysterious girl with immeasurable wealth and enchanting attractiveness. The light trail of her steps seemed like a magical guide to the endless world of abundance. The guys felt their souls filled with inspiration, driven by the desire to comprehend the secrets of this magical girl. They believe that in this traveling they will find something more valuable than gold, such as true friendship and the meaning of life. However, the friends had to flee in horror from the formidable monsters. Their legs rushed along the ground like a whirlwind, and screams echoed through the night air, filling it with anxiety and concern. Fear was visible in everyone's eyes. At that moment, the monsters attacked the girl sitting on the stone. She was lucky that Travis was nearby, ready to fight the formidable monster, his eyes sparkling with determination, and his heart beating in unison with the desire to protect the defenseless girl. He quickly assessed the situation and without hesitation rushed into battle. Understanding the danger, he stood on the descent from the mountain, convincing her that the only correct decision was to jump down. If she did not want to put her life in danger, the guy was ready to support her at every step of this difficult descent. She trusted him and asked him to save her by harnessing her down. The main character picked it up and told everyone to listen to him carefully from now on. They must run to the foot of the mountain, find people and ask them to call the players. In the meantime, he will look for the rest of the children. But Jack said that this is pointless. They all fell into the clutches of monsters. Travis asked Jack to stop fooling around and concentrate on surviving. He understood that the situation required seriousness and concentration. They needed to unite in the fight for life. These words clearly sounded convincing to everyone. He said that the four of them needed to form a group that would have to act harmoniously and coordinatedly in order to effectively counter any threats and a possible collision with a monster or other danger that could lie in wait for them in this mysterious forest. There was some mana left in the food Michael's mom made. The nose of monster specializes in detecting mana. The main character decided to use this to his advantage to throw them off his trail. He wanted to lure them with his mana. Using internal forces, he formed a dome around himself and others. Thanks to this, they managed to gain precious time and escape. At that moment, the monsters attacked them. Their attack was unexpected and merciless. But one of them suspected something, and he backed away, retreating. This did not save the monster. In a split second the main character took his life. Before his death, the awareness of the ensuing tragedy overwhelmed him. Every breath became the last chord of his life. Darkness came unexpectedly, like a predator sneaking up on its prey in the night. As expected, Travis was able to implement his cunning plan. Carefully thought out to the smallest detail, he felt in control, knowing that in his hands was the power that could turn the tide of events. He can't use a longsword because of its weight, but it should do, he said, picking up one of the player's weapons. This metal was filled with mana, but even without the use of mana it had incredible power. Ancient spells sounded in its texture. Ready to awaken under the touch of a wizard, he felt this energy, albeit without activating his magical abilities. It was something amazing, like the metal itself breathing, pulsating, ready to respond to the subtlest vibrations of the magical world. He would be able to destroy all monsters. This was his cunning plan, and the metal filled with mana was the key to victory. In his hands the weapon acquired supernatural power, capable of resisting even the most terrible creatures. He felt his resolve strengthen, knowing that the battle would not remain unanswered. The monsters did not suspect that the Lord of Metal Magic was standing before them, capable of conquering them all. He began to flirt and talk, inviting the monsters to come to him. His words sounded mesmerizing, like a magic spellcaster calling his students. He knew that their curiosity would not let them stay in place, and they would agree to his terrible game. The metal weapon flashed in his arms, inviting a challenge and demonstrating his incredible power. He was now ready to face the darkness, ready to stand in the way of monsters and fight them to the last. A split second later, one of the monsters attacked Travis. A fight immediately broke out. A stunning blade met the fangs and claws of the creature. Sparks flew in all directions from the collision of magic and force. The blast waves spread to both sides, as if an invisible shield was protecting the battle. The guy, clutching the handle of the weapon, felt every moment of the struggle, embodying his determination in every movement. The battle had just begun. The protagonist easily dodged the monster's attack, avoiding its claws and teeth, then made a powerful blow, piercing the monster with a sparkling blade, stunning it for an instant and causing serious damage. Revealing his metallic power to them, the main character began to destroy all the monsters. His movements were precise and powerful, like a dance of a storm, taking away everything in its path. The guy's strength was almost at the peak of his ability. He felt how each blow pierced the enemy, as if piercing their armor with a merciless tip. The girl could not believe that the guy dealt with the monsters so quickly and boldly. In her eyes there was amazement and recognition of his incredible abilities. She saw how he easily dodged attacks, accurately predicting the movements of his opponents. His well-aimed blows were accurate and crushing, as if an invisible force embodied his determination. The hero, as if dancing on the edge of a blade, continued to fight, emphasizing his skill. For the girl this was not just a fight, but a real art, where every movement had its own role. She understood that she was standing on the side of a real warrior, ready to go to the end in this battle with darkness. At that moment, He informed her that if she did not want to die, she had better go down the mountain. His voice sounded stern, but there was a caring concern in it. He understood that fighting monsters was not a place for the unprepared. He showed her the way to go down. Now Travis was fighting a level 6 hellhound monster, its ominous roar echoing through the area, filling the air with threat and agony. It was a creature from the darkest nightmares, a creature of hell, ready to destroy everything in its path. Michael was sure that now everything was over with this monster. His determination was strong like steel armor, and his inner fire burned with a diamond flame, ready to dry up the darkness. He knew that he would definitely win in this confrontation.